Good morning, my friend. December 15th, 2025. Dollar say hi. Okay. Trump, the art of the deal. Oh, it looks like a great day. Great morning. Great weather. Look. See this. Beautiful sky. Alright, let me see. I think it was page 270. Let's from here. It's long short. Okay, long shot. Chapter 11. The spring and fall of the USFL. All my life, I've believed in paying for the best. But when it came to the United States Football League, I decided to go a different route entirely. By the time I bought the New Jersey Generals in the fall 1983, the league was already failing badly. It had lost nearly $30 million. The Generals alone, under the ownership of an Oklahoma oilman named J. Watson Duncan, had lost more than $2 million, not to mention nearly every game they'd played. In real estate terms, I was buying the South Bronx instead of Fifth Avenue and 57th Street. But I didn't look at the Generals as a typical deal. I viewed it instead as a long shot, a lark that I could afford to take. I've always been a football fan. I love sports. And having my own team seemed the realization of a great fantasy. I also liked the idea of taking on the NFL, a smug, self-satisfied monopoly that I believed was highly vulnerable to an aggressive competitor. As long shots go, I liked the odds on the USFL. My initial investments was relatively small, and the potential rewards were quite great. For less than $6 million contingent on the league's continuing, compared with the $70 million on an NFL franchise might cost, I was able to purchase a professional football team in one of the greatest areas in the world. All right. That dog came downstairs. My dog is making the morning sound. Hey, come on. Let's finish it. For less than $6 million, contingent on the league's continuing, compared with the $70 million an NFL franchise might cost, I was able to purchase a professional football team in one of the greatest areas in the world. If I could help turn the team and the league around. Landing. Okay. Come on. Don't look at it. If I could help turn the team and the league around, I stood on earn back many times my initial investment. At the very least, I would have a lot of fun trying. The main problems with the USFL seemed fairly clear-cut and not all that difficult to remedy. The first was that the league was playing its games in the spring. Sports have their seasons, and fans like their football in the fall. The television networks, which essentially underwrite professional sports, won't pay large sums for the rights to televise spring football. At the time I bought the Generals, ABC was paying $1 million a year for exclusive network rights to the USFL spring schedule. Meanwhile, the three networks together were paying a staggering $359 million a year for rights to the NFL 4 games. The first thing the USFL had to do was move to the fall. The second challenge was to build a first-class product. To me, that meant spending whatever money it took to sign top players, promote our teams, and create the sort of excitement that would make us a legitimate competitor for the NFL's fans and TV dollars. 2 leagues had been launched previously in competition with the NFL. The outcome in each case was highly instructive. The American Football League was formed in 1962 by 8 very wealthy entrepreneurial men. They signed top players and absorbed substantial losses in the service of building the league's credibility during the early years. By 1966, the AFL had signed away dozens of the NFL's best players and was widely seen as the more exciting of the two leagues. With the AFL race escalating, NFL Commissioner Pete Rozelle surrendered. He suggested a merger of the two leagues, and today those original AFL teams are among the NFL's most successful franchises. But even without a merger, the AFL would have prospered. The other venture that tried to compete with the NFL was the World Football League. It was launched in 1973, but by men of much less wealth and more limited vision. What are you trying to do? Okay. It was launched in 1973, but by men of much less wealth and more limited vision. In contrast to their AFL counterparts, the WFL owners signed very few name players, placed their franchises in smaller cities, and failed to attract any kind of television contract. Within 2 years, the WFL was bankrupt. Its founders didn't lose a fortune, but only because they didn't invest a fortune. I foresaw two possible outcomes if we moved the USFL to the fall and began to build quality teams. And both of them were potentially good. The first was that at least one of the three networks would offer us a substantial fall television contract, which would help us continue to build an even stronger league fully competitive with the NFL. The second was that the three networks, all fearful of alienating the monopoly NFL, would refuse to give us a full television contract, no matter how strong a product we had to offer. In that case, I believed we'd have strong grounds for an antitrust case against the NFL. If we went the latter route, obviously we could lose, and then our league would be dead. But I believed the more likely outcome was some sort of victory. If the suit went to a jury and we were awarded reasonable damages, particularly given the fact that any damage award is trebled in an antitrust case, we'd have the financial base we needed. Another possibility was that the NFL, anticipating a costly and humiliating court defeat, would offer some sort of settlement, much as they'd done 20 years earlier with the AFL. I made no secret of my views. 2 years later, the NFL would try to claim in court that my plan to move our league's season to the fall was somehow secret and sinister. In fact, within days of taking over the Generals, I told any reporter who caught me exactly how I felt. Then, on October 18, 1983, a month after purchasing the Generals, I attended my first owners' meeting in Houston, Texas. I wasn't shy there either. When my turn came to address my fellow owners, I stood up and explained that I hadn't bought into the USFL to be a minor league owner playing in the off-season of spring. I pointed out that the greatest number of fans and by far the biggest pool of network television dollars were concentrated in the fall. I reminded my fellow owners that because the NFL had just gone through a long, bitter players' strike the past fall, many fans were feeling restless and alienated. And finally, I argued that we had a chance to put the NFL even further on the defensive by moving aggressively to sign top NFL players whose contracts were coming up, as well as the best graduating college players. If there was a single key miscalculation I made with the USFL, it was evaluating the strengths of my fellow owners. In any partnership, you are only as strong as your weakest link. Several of my fellow USFL owners were strong as hell, financially and psychologically. Among them were Michigan Panthers owner Al Topman and Philadelphia Stars owner Miles Tannenbaum, both of whom coincidentally had made their personal fortunes building shopping centers, as well as Memphis's Showboats owner Billy Donawat and Jacksonville Bulls owner Fred Bullard. Unfortunately, I quickly discovered that a number of USFL owners lacked the financial resources and the competitive vision to build the sort of top-quality league necessary to defeat the NFL. They shuddered at the prospect of any direct confrontation with the NFL. They were quite content to play in obscurity in the spring, and they spent much more time thinking about ways to keep their costs down than about how to build the league up. My most immediate priority was the team I'd just purchased. Okay, I think $1 go back. Thanks for reading with me. Bye.